top 6 male insecurities that women don't care about. We all have insecurities. It's just part of being human. They can shape how we present ourselves, how we speak, or even how we interact with others. It's easy to feel like you're coming off in a way that's not truly you, but that's something everyone experiences. Personally, I have a few insecurities I'm not going to mention here, but it's clear that everyone has something. And yes, men too deal with their own insecurities. Today I'm going to share, based on conversations I've had with many male friends and colleagues, the top 6 insecurities men face. And I'll explain why these things shouldn't be a big deal, because women honestly don't care. Let's dive right in. Welcome back, I'm Jessie. Before we begin, if you hear any background noise, I apologise. There's a church in my neighbourhood, and for some reason they're doing something today. So a little bit of that church noise might make its way into the microphone, but I hope you can overlook it because what we're about to talk about will be worth it. All right, let's get into it. The top 6 male insecurities that really don't matter to women. Number 1, what are they? Let's get started. First up, let's talk about height. This is a topic I've discussed many times, both in private and on various public platforms. It's often assumed that women prefer taller men. And yes, society tends to encourage this. We're raised to look up, literally and figuratively, to the men in our lives. That's just how it's been ingrained in us. However, not all men are blessed with height. Does this make them less appealing? Well, for some women, maybe. But there are so many other factors that come into play, like the woman's age, her personality, and her goals in life. Let me explain further. Does height matter? Sure, to a certain extent. But in the grand scheme of things, when it comes to finding a solid partner, I'd say it's not a huge deal. I believe that height plays a significant role in shaping first impressions. However, things can quickly shift in favour of a guy if he has other positive qualities that stand out. I understand that it can be a bit discouraging for men who are considered vertically challenged, so to speak, not exactly the tallest. Typically, their love interests may be the same height or perhaps even slightly taller, and I completely empathise with how they might feel. It's understandable, especially since many women, when asked about their ideal man's physical traits, will almost always start with, he has to be tall. Tall, dark, and handsome. Of course, this can vary depending on ethnicity and personal preferences, but height is usually at the top of the list. Does this mean that all the wealthy men who aren't particularly tall possess some secret we're unaware of? Maybe they have something going for them that we haven't figured out. As I mentioned before, height may influence first impressions, but ultimately, does it truly matter? There are plenty of other qualities you could excel in, and trust me, they tend to offer much more than height ever could. Get what I'm saying? Now let's dive into another common insecurity that many men face: not driving a flashy car. Sure, it's impressive when a guy you're interested in pulls up in a sleek, expensive car, the kind you usually only see in the movies. But let's be honest, how many average people can actually afford such vehicles? The reality is, it's a pretty small number. So does that mean a man driving a more modest car, whatever modest means to him, is doomed in the love department? I don't believe so. Here's the thing, I tend to think that the whole driving a nice car thing is more about men using it as a status symbol. It's often more about men than women, almost like a matter of ego. Think about it, when you drive a fancy car and roll up to an event where all your friends are waiting, stepping out of that car makes a powerful social statement. A lot of men try to live up to that image. The idea is that if you have a nice car, it's clear you're successful, right? But for me, it really feels like it's about ego. Women, on the other hand, often don't care as much. The real purpose of a car is to get you from point A to point B, after all. Trust me on this. I've been on dates where I had a nicer car than the guy picking me up. Did that take away from the date? Did it diminish his respect for me? Not at all. I still enjoyed those dates, and I thought the guys were great in their own ways. So if you meet a woman who's shallow enough to judge you based on the car you drive, then she's probably not the right woman for you anyway. Let's just forget that entirely. Now let's talk about bald heads. I've noticed that a lot of guys go through a lot of emotional distress when they realise their hairline is starting to recede. the reactions can be pretty intense. And I've seen that many men choose to just shave it all off once they notice bald patches. Here's the interesting part. Bald men tend to command more dominance than men with a full head of hair. I'm not saying this in a mean or belittling way, but from my perspective, men without hair often feel the need to make up for it in other areas of their lives. Think about it. What are you really going to do with your hair? Running your hands through his hair isn't going to happen if you're marrying an African man, because that's just not a thing. But there's something about rubbing a bald head that's just different. So I honestly think bald men might have an edge over men with full hair. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Honestly, I know it's a controversial topic, but it's true. You don't need to stress about a receding hairline. Bald is the new sexy, they say. Believe it. Let's dive into the next big topic, number 4 on the list. We need to talk about a question that seems to always be on people's minds. Does size really matter? When it comes to the size of a man's penis, does it actually play a significant role? I've had conversations with many women, and believe it or not, a lot of them say, no. Sure, having a big package might be fun or even a bit exciting, thinking, wow, this guy's well endowed. But when it comes to long-term relationships, it's not always about that. Women tend to find themselves with guys who have a medium or average size because that's what they can comfortably deal with in the long run. No one wants to be in constant discomfort during intimate moments. And while having a big member can be a fun surprise initially, it's not always the most comfortable or practical choice for sustaining a long-term connection. So, no offense to those of you with bigger parts, but the reality is, when it comes to longevity in relationships, size doesn't always matter as much as people think. Ladies, if you're watching, let me know if I'm off base here. But I'm guessing most of you would agree that a larger-than-life size isn't the ultimate deal-breaker. As long as it's not tiny, you're probably fine. Now let's talk about another common misconception. Money. If you scroll through the comments on my channel, you'll see that a lot of men believe that money is the key to attracting all the women in the world. I've covered this in previous videos explaining that money isn't everything, and I'll say it again. Having money is great, but it's not the only factor that defines your attractiveness. Look, I'm not suggesting you should be broke, but let's be real. If you're so financially strapped that you can barely afford basic necessities, it's hard to imagine anyone being attracted to that. And honestly, if you don't even like the situation you're in, why would you expect someone else to be interested? I'm not saying you need to be rolling in cash or jet-setting around the world in a private jet. I'm just saying that money alone isn't the magic solution to relationships. No, definitely not. I simply need a man who's doing well enough, someone who can provide the basics like putting food on the table. I can take care of the kids, and together we can meet our most essential needs. I believe for many women, that's all they really need. You don't have to be wealthy to win the heart of the woman of your dreams. I've mentioned this before, actually, and if you haven't already seen that video, make sure to head over to my channel and watch it right now. Feel free to share your thoughts as well. And lastly, let's talk about huge muscles. I know a lot of men, especially those who aren't into the gym, feel a little insecure or intimidated when they see others who have big muscles, six-packs, and look like something straight out of a fitness magazine. Here's something else to consider, though. Those guys are not the majority. That means there are about 60 to 70% of women out there who aren't really focused on that kind of physique. Does that make those men less attractive or desirable? Absolutely not. What most women are looking for is someone who takes care of themselves. You could be in your 20s, 30s, or even middle-aged. As long as you maintain good physical health, look after your appearance, and avoid carrying extra weight. There's this notion that men are the only ones concerned with weight, but it's actually the same for women. Sure, some men prefer larger women, but generally, women tend to shy away from men who carry too much weight. So, those are the 6 main insecurities that I think men tend to worry about more than necessary. They stress themselves out over these things. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I've also received quite a few comments about the look of my videos. And if you want, you can check out my gear listed in the video description. I've provided everything I use for this channel there. Feel free to check it out on Amazon and buy anything that catches your eye. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Jessie. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Thanks for being here. Take care. Bye.